No, he's going knight g4. Wait a minute. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Rook takes f5. Knight just with 1 second on the clock.
Whoa, 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 whoa.
He's been attacked, vilified. His rating has dropped by 50 points. But this bad boy of chess, the chess villain, is down but not out. Hans Niemann is determined to make a comeback, rise to the very top of chess and become world champion. One step at a time, he's trying to make his comeback. And he's doing it right now on the biggest stage in the land of the USA. It's the US Chess Championships. Can he overcome Sam Sevian, who's playing with white in round 2? This is an epic game. So Hans with black, after d4, he plays knight f6. We get c4, e6, and we now head down a Catalan. d5, bishop g2, bishop e7, standard opening moves, and now Hans takes on c4. Always looks so strange to me this. Why would you open up this powerful bishop? Well, look at how black neutralizes it. We see queen a4 to win back the pawn. Queen c2 more common, but b5 can come. So this seems to play against that. Now we get a6, the queen captures, and b5. A vital tempo picked up on the queen, so you've got time for bishop b7. That's how you neutralize this one. And at some point, black wants, c5 to liberate that backwards pawn. So bishop d2 now played by Sam Sevian, and it's a weird looking move. You know, why not bishop f4? We're not going to get deep on subtleties. Perhaps he didn't like knight d5, but after rook a7, another weird looking move. What's that all about? Well, ultimately c5 is wanted, then the rook can swing. Well, a4 now comes from Sam, so he's looking to nibble away at these queenside pawns. So Hans kicks on, b4 played. This diagonal now blunted, so the bishop comes to a new square. Also makes room for the knight, which could land on this newly weakened square. We get knight bd7, knight bd2, and queen a8. There's something really, really pretty about a queen and a bishop lined up in this kind of battery. I've always loved the queen on a8, especially with the rook there. You know, you see it in the Benko gambit, just a nice one to see. And now, not the most precise move from Sevian. Rook fc1, apparently better, pressuring this pawn. By the way, taking no good. Suddenly the rook looks great because you take here, open the attack, you're winning a queen or a minor piece. So instead, we see knight e1 played, but now here Hans can trade off the bishops and c5. He liberates the pawn, he solved any opening problems, the position's equal, black maybe even with an edge. Now the next move looks slightly strange. Bishop takes on f6. Why would you leave black with this monster piece? Not entirely clear to me why. You know, maybe he didn't like something with knight d5 or connected with that. Now you can take with the bishop, most natural move, but again, maybe something Hans didn't like about this. Pawn takes here, but you can go rook c8, you're going to win back the pawn. Even if you try and defend with, say, knight b3, I mean, you can still take, there's pins, you know, you can't hold on to that pawn. So not clear why Hans takes with the pawn, but this is what we love about his style. He's very creative, there's more of that to come. So now we see this knight coming around to b3. Not this optimal c4 square, but it does add pressure here and here and covers the d4 pawn. And Sevian not too much in a rush to play e3. He's conscious of these light squares with the queen on the diagonal. So c takes on d4. Rook ac1, good move, taking control of the file. And e5 is a bad positional move, because although you take care of this pawn and defend it, you critically weaken this square, the knight can hop, and white's getting this huge initiative with a knife on f5, hitting the bishop, all the weaknesses around the king, not good. So knight e5 from Hans. We get knight takes on d4, rook d8 hits the knight, it hops back, rook a d7, doubling, now knight f4, springing into the game, king g7, and we get a check. Now this is an invitation to repeat the position. You know, if you come back and Sevian comes back, but Hans goes king h6, knight back to f4. Again, do you want to repeat the position? King g7, no doubt he's hopping. You go like this. Does Hans want to repeat? No, f5. He wants to win constantly. And I probably did him a disservice, by the way, in a previous Niemann game, final round of the last tournament he was playing, the juniors, and I was saying, you know, he always wants to win. It's just too arrogant at times. But to be fair, you helped set me straight in the comments. I didn't consider the context that was the final round of the US Championships. He had to win to get, you know, a first spot or be in with a running right. So that's why he went for it. So I do kind of backtrack on those comments. That was really helpful. Thank you. Anyway, in this game, we love the fighting spirit. Round 2. So he goes knight g2. He wants more. King g7, or Sevian went knight g2, sorry. Now we see queen b1, and Sevian just slightly struggling for a plan. So he opens his rook, we get bishop f6, eyeing this long diagonal and the pawn. Now white's feeling the loss of that bishop. Rook c5 played, knight g6 back, and now rook c4, taking advantage of where the knight moved, pressuring this pawn, trying to induce a5. Not such a bad move, but could become weak. And so bishop e7 selected, queen c2, and now a great move by Hans, but not an obvious one. Pawn to h5. Very, very double-edged, because after pawn f4, if this knight ever moves, then this one could spring, it could be weak. Queen b8 now from Hans, looking at some dark squares, maybe f4 one day. So queen c1 played, keeps an eye on these, whoops, misfire, these ones here. We get bishop f6, and now knight a5, looking to hop in here, get a fork of the pieces, win an exchange. Queen b6 covers. Now the knight hops back, you know, Sevian playing very timidly. The queen retreats, the knight comes back. Again, this is a draw offer, but here Hans says no. I want to fight, I want to play on. He goes king h7. He constantly wants to win, even if it worsens his position. And now, because this knight can hop to f4, white is actually doing well now, attacking this pawn. And Hans doesn't even take the knight, which he should do to save this pawn. He goes knight e5, just going for this attack, giving a pawn, which we see in just a moment, after this rook moves and queen b7. What is Hans's plan? Because the pawn drops, the bishop retreats, and he's a pawn down, and white has just as good an attack as black here. So queen c2 played, eyeing these light squares, x-raying towards the king. e4 could be on the cards. We see rook g8, Hans trying to attack, knight f4 back, and now here Hans has this incredible moment. Check out this clip that I showed at the start of the video.
Maybe then will be time to make the knight a5 move.
No, he's going knight g4. Wait a minute. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Rook takes f5. Knight just with 1 second on the clock.
Whoa, 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 whoa. Rook takes f5. You pointed this out.
Oh my goodness.
Oh,
Knight
no.
Oh, knight g4 was a big blunder, by the way. Rook takes f5 was finishing the game on the spot.
So Hans almost plays knight to g4. What's the problem with this move? Well, it's all connected with this tactical pressure here. You can crash through with the rook. The pawn recaptures, queen takes, check, and say the king steps up the board, trying to keep everything still protected, nothing immediately drops. Well, now there's knight c5, for example. Hit both of these, say the queen moves, well, this drops for free, or you can even flick in a check first. And if you go rook d5, well, now it drops to this knight. You know, it's just completely over. But Hans just sees it at the last moment, a second on his clock. Goes knight g6, but captures, rook takes, and white is clearly better. They've just made time control. They get some time back, but Sevian starts burning it. Rook c1, already using time. Now we get queen b6. Hans setting up some tricky stuff down here. This could be a threat now to take here, using the pin of this pawn if this rook ever moves. So we see the rook come back to d1, challenging this piece, leaving this one here to intercept the queen's x-ray. We get captures, queen takes, the pawn drops. Now why would you give a pawn? Well, this is Sevian's idea to invade and go after f7, and he's thinking this is going to be really uncomfortable. e3, my king's safe, black's on the back foot. Who knows if I start running this one? But Hans, he is still fighting to drum up play on those dark squares, and after king g2 now, adding some protection around here, we get queen a8 check. We do see an interpose of the rook, which looks weird, but it's the best move, because say you step back, then there's queen f3, Horrible invasion. Now there's a threat of takes here, and black is actually better now. So rook c6 creates a self-pin, but it is a good move. We get bishop e5, queen c8, now offering an exchange of queens, but Hans ducks it, even at the cost of the pawn, which Sevian now grabs. He switches the queen across to the other side of the board, looking to crash through now around this white king, and rook to a8. Here Sevian is generating the counterplay. How do you stop that attack? Down against the king. Well, rook g4 is a great move. The bishop now holds this square. The rook holds this square. And so the queen is threatening to take that pawn using this pin. So king f1 steps away, but now queen d6. Hans is probing on these dark squares and he's playing on Sevian's clock. He's down under a minute, but Hans still has over 20. They're getting 30 seconds back a move. Queen b7 now played to cover that pawn, but this is actually almost tantamount to a blunder. Running back one move. You should go king e2, a way more practical try, to stop queen d1 check. And now, yes, you can go queen d5, hit this knight, knight d2, bishop c3, looks terminal for white, but queen d8 does just save the day. Attacks this one, defends this one through the queen. White is holding on, black can go queen a2, still very tricky for white, but you can hold on. But we see this move of queen b7. Now the evaluation bar on the left still gives it a draw, but in practical terms it's as good as lost, because check, the king goes, the knight drops, you take here with check, but after the king steps up the board, now how do you proceed? Sevian checks with the queen, but there's only one drawing move here. You can look for this thing for like 10 minutes, and I'd be surprised if you find it, if you haven't seen the game and know the move. It's just insanely hard. Now the move to play to hold a draw here apparently is rook to a5. You hit this bishop, and the idea is if you play something natural like bishop to g7, then the rook takes here on f5 and you can't recapture, or your queen drops on b3. I mean, these variations are just crazy. So what happens if you then go rook g6, because there's a threat to mate with the rook here, so you intercept the queen. Well, now you can go h5, kick away the rook, it retreats, rook c5, and basically the white attack is overwhelming. You can just slow play this. Sorry, you can't move the queen or the pawn drops. But say you do something like this, black is stuck for moves, white can just slow play this, you hit the rook, it moves back, queen f4 check, the king goes, queen e4 check. And the problem here is that when you pressure this pawn, it's so hard to defend. No rook e7 or queen g6 is mate. If the king takes here, now still the rook invades and the king is getting hunted. Crazy variations. So that was apparently a draw. But queen f8 check played, the bishop blocks, and now after this move, pressuring the pawn, Hans says, you know what, that pawn can drop and I'm fine. He first goes queen c4, preparing to run the b pawn. Rook e8, going after e6, but b3. Now we get takes with check. King h7, and yes, it was a check and you've broken through, but this bishop is an amazing defender. Where's the follow-up? We get queen d7, pinning here, x-raying this pawn, but b2, rook b6, now check, f3, queen c2 check. The king moves, the pawn goes through, the rook has to give itself up, and what do you do as white? Everything has crumbled. You're a rook and a bishop down for some pawns. Checkmate is threatened in one, but equally, if you do something to try and stop that, like king g2, then the rook just saves itself. It will soon be coming in to join the attack, deliver a checkmate. So what does Sevian do? He gentlemanly takes on g4, allows Hans to deliver a checkmate on h1 using the queen. That's a nice one. So Niemann, he is in the thick of it and fighting hard. I hope you enjoyed this game. Do let me know your thoughts down below. I love to hear from everyone in the comments about Niemann, any games you want to see in future, and if you want to see another game of epic chess, then check out the video on screen. Thanks very much for watching and see you soon.